Ladies and gentlemen, today I stand before you to speak on a topic that has been misunderstood, misrepresented, and often misquoted for decades: feminism. This term, which stands for equality, justice, and empowerment, is frequently misconstrued as an ideology that fights against men. However, at its core, feminism is not about one gender dominating the other, but about creating an equal world for all regardless of gender. Feminism is about acknowledging the struggles of women, advocating for their rights, and addressing the imbalances in society that disproportionately affect them. But it is not a war against men. Rather, it is a movement for fairness, respect, and equal opportunities for everyone. Feminism at its core is the belief in and advocacy for the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes. To understand feminism fully, it's important to trace its roots and appreciate the historical context that led to its emergence. The movement did not arise in a vacuum. It came into being as a direct response to centuries of societal structures that systematically oppressed women. Historically, women have faced various forms of discrimination, and feminism emerged as a response to these inequalities. At a time when women were denied basic rights such as the right to vote or own property, feminist movements began to take shape. Early feminists, including figures like Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, and Sojourner Truth, fought for women's suffrage and their ability to participate fully in civic life. These first-wave feminists challenged the idea that women's roles were confined to the domestic sphere, arguing that women had the right to contribute to society in every possible way. Their work laid the groundwork for the fight for gender equality by challenging the status quo. Over the years, feminism has evolved through different phases, each wave tackling specific issues that were relevant to the time. The second wave, for example, emerged in the 1960s and 1970s, addressing a wider range of issues beyond suffrage. This wave focused on issues like workplace discrimination, reproductive rights, and sexual liberation. Feminists of this era demanded equal pay for equal work, the right to control their own bodies, and an end to the societal expectations that limited women's autonomy. As time went on, the third wave of feminism emerged in the 1990s, which further expanded the scope of the movement. This wave was notable for its emphasis on diversity and inclusion. Feminism began to recognize the various ways that women experience oppression, not just through gender, but also through race, class, sexual orientation, and other intersecting identities. This phase of feminism introduced the concept of intersectionality, which acknowledges that the experiences of women are not monolithic. A woman of color, for example, may face different challenges than a white woman. And it's important that feminism addresses these nuances to ensure no one is left behind. Feminism today continues to focus on creating a world where women have equal rights and opportunities, but the movement has also become more inclusive. It recognizes that gender inequality is a societal problem that affects everyone, not just women. Men too are harmed by restrictive gender roles that limit their emotional expression and force them into rigid definitions of masculinity. Feminism therefore seeks to break down these barriers for both women and men, striving to create a world where individuals are not limited by the traditional gender expectations imposed upon them. At its core, feminism is not about undermining men or creating a world where women dominate. Rather, it is about creating equality for everyone. It's about ensuring that no one, regardless of their gender, is held back from achieving their full potential. Feminism challenges the systems that perpetuate inequality, and it's a movement that strives for fairness and justice in all aspects of life. One of the most common misconceptions about feminism is that it is anti-men. This idea is deeply rooted in misunderstandings about the movement's goals and intentions. Feminism is frequently portrayed as a movement that seeks to create conflict between the genders, painting men as adversaries. However, nothing could be further from the truth. Feminism is not about fighting against men. It is about fighting for equality. It is a movement that challenges social norms and structures that limit everyone, including men. To understand why feminism is not anti-men, we must first recognize that the movement does not aim to create a society where one gender dominates over the other. Rather, feminism seeks to dismantle the patriarchal structures that have historically placed women at a disadvantage. However, these same structures also impose restrictions on men. Men, like women, are subjected to rigid gender norms that dictate how they should behave, think, and even feel. These expectations often harm men as well, especially when they do not align with their true selves or personal desires. For example, society expects men to always be strong, unemotional, and in control. This expectation can lead to immense pressure, as men are taught to suppress their emotions and avoid vulnerability. The result is often a range of mental health issues, including depression and anxiety, as men feel they are not allowed to express themselves freely. These restrictions can also create unhealthy relationships, as men may feel disconnected or unable to communicate openly with others. Feminism challenges these restrictive ideals and advocates for the freedom for men to be emotional, to be nurturing, and to exist outside of traditional masculine stereotypes. Moreover, the feminist movement does not only focus on women's issues. Feminism also addresses broader societal problems, many of which affect men as well. For instance, the belief that men should always be the breadwinners and primary providers can lead to significant stress and pressure. It creates a situation where men are expected to prioritize career success over personal fulfillment or family life. This imbalance can harm their well-being and make it difficult for them to balance work and home life. Feminism calls for the redistribution of caregiving and household responsibilities, advocating for shared roles in both professional and domestic spheres, which would benefit men just as much as women. Furthermore, feminism recognizes that men also suffer from violence, particularly in the form of domestic abuse and sexual assault. Although women are statistically more likely to be victims of gender-based violence, men are also subjected to these forms of abuse, often in silence. Feminism works toward ending all forms of violence regardless of the victim's gender. By addressing violence in a holistic way, feminism benefits everyone by promoting healthier, more respectful relationships. Ultimately, feminism is a movement for equality and justice. It is not about pitting one gender against another, rather it is about breaking down the barriers that limit human potential. Men and women alike should be free to live their lives authentically, without fear of judgment or social retribution. By challenging the societal norms that restrict both genders, feminism aims to create a more inclusive and equitable world for everyone. Far from being a fight against men, feminism is about creating a society where all individuals, regardless of gender, can live freely and equally. Feminism is often misunderstood as an issue that concerns only women, but the reality is that gender equality benefits everyone, including men. When women are empowered and given equal opportunities, the entire society prospers. It's important to recognize that the fight for gender equality is not just a women's cause, but a movement that has far-reaching implications for all individuals regardless of gender. Achieving equality isn't about elevating one gender over the other. It's about creating a fair and just world where everyone has the opportunity to succeed regardless of their gender. One of the most significant ways feminism benefits society as a whole is by creating a more just and balanced economy. When women have equal access to education and employment opportunities, they are able to contribute to the economy on an equal footing with men. Research has consistently shown that when women are given equal opportunities in the workforce, there is a positive impact on economic growth. Companies with more gender diversity tend to perform better, and economies that support gender equality are more robust and sustainable. By fighting for equal pay for equal work, eliminating workplace discrimination, and ensuring that women have access to leadership positions, feminism is working to create an economy that benefits everyone, not just one gender. Additionally, gender equality has positive social implications for both men and women. When women have access to the same education and career opportunities as men, they are more likely to contribute to society in meaningful ways. Their participation in all areas of life, from politics to business to science and technology, helps solve complex societal challenges. For example, having more women in leadership positions leads to more inclusive decision-making processes, and research has shown that organizations with gender-diverse teams make better decisions and drive innovation more effectively. This creates a more dynamic and innovative society, where everyone has a role to play and no talent is wasted based on gender. Feminism also has profound effects on family life. When women are empowered to participate in the workforce, they are better able to support their families financially and achieve economic independence. This reduces the financial burden on men, enabling them to share responsibilities more equitably at home. It challenges the traditional gender roles that have often placed women solely in the domestic sphere, while men were expected to be the breadwinners. This shift can lead to more balanced family dynamics, where both partners are equally involved in caregiving, child-rearing, and household responsibilities. This benefits children as they are raised in environments where both parents contribute to their upbringing and well-being regardless of gender. Furthermore, when women are able to participate fully in society, men are freed from the pressures of traditional gender expectations. Men too are harmed by rigid gender roles that demand they conform to narrow definitions of masculinity. The feminist movement encourages men to embrace their full humanity, allowing them to express emotions, seek help when needed, and form deeper, more authentic relationships. Feminism advocates for a society where men too are not forced to live up to unrealistic expectations, but are encouraged to be their authentic selves. This not only benefits men emotionally and psychologically, but it also leads to healthier relationships and more fulfilling lives for everyone. In conclusion, feminism is about creating a world where both men and women can thrive without being limited by gender norms. The movement's goals, such as equal pay, access to education, and protection from gender-based violence, benefit society as a whole. When women are empowered, everyone stands to gain. A society that supports gender equality is a healthier, more prosperous, and more just society, where everyone has the chance to contribute to their fullest potential regardless of gender. The fight for equal rights is one of the fundamental pillars of feminism, and it encompasses a wide range of issues that have historically affected women. Feminism is not a movement that seeks to elevate one gender over another, but instead to create a more just and equal society for all individuals regardless of their gender. Despite the progress made over the years, gender inequality remains pervasive, and the feminist movement continues to fight for systemic changes that address the challenges women face in every aspect of life. One of the most significant areas where feminism seeks to achieve equality is in the workplace. For decades, women have been paid less than men for doing the same work, and despite progress in certain fields, the gender pay gap remains a pressing issue. Feminism advocates for equal pay for equal work, challenging the societal norms that devalue women's labor and perpetuate gender-based wage disparities. It also pushes for policies that ensure workplace equality, such as maternity leave, equal access to career advancement opportunities, and protections against sexual harassment and discrimination. Women should be able to pursue their careers and dreams without the added burden of gender-based obstacles, and feminism fights to eliminate these barriers. Reproductive rights are another critical aspect of the feminist movement. Women's ability to control their own bodies and make decisions about their reproductive health is a cornerstone of gender equality. In many parts of the world, women still face legal restrictions on their reproductive choices, such as limitations on access to contraception and abortion. Feminism advocates for women's autonomy over their bodies and for access to comprehensive healthcare services that allow women to make informed decisions about their health and future. The right to choose when and how to have children is essential to women's ability to participate fully in society, whether that means pursuing a career, education, or other personal goals. Feminism fights to protect these rights and to ensure that every woman has the power to make choices that align with her own values and circumstances. Feminism also addresses the issue of gender-based violence, which remains a pervasive and devastating problem worldwide. Women and girls are disproportionately affected by domestic violence, sexual assault, human trafficking, and other forms of gender-based abuse. Feminism works to raise awareness about these issues and to create legal and social frameworks that protect women from violence. This includes advocating for stronger laws, better support systems for survivors, and cultural shifts that reject violence and discrimination. Feminists also call for the dismantling of rape culture, where victim blaming and misogyny allow violence against women to be normalized and perpetuated. By tackling these issues, feminism seeks to create a society where all individuals, regardless of their gender, can live free from the threat of violence and abuse. In addition to these areas, feminism also fights for gender equality in leadership and political representation. Women have historically been underrepresented in positions of power, whether in government, business, or other influential sectors. Feminism advocates for women to have an equal voice in decision-making processes and for the removal of barriers that prevent them from rising to positions of leadership. This includes ensuring that women have access to education and professional opportunities, as well as creating environments where their contributions are valued and recognized. By advocating for women's participation in leadership, feminism works toward a more inclusive and diverse society where decisions reflect the experiences and needs of all people. The fight for equal rights is ongoing, and while progress has been made, there is still much work to be done. Feminism's fight for gender equality is not just about addressing issues specific to women. It is about challenging the very structures and systems that perpetuate inequality. It seeks to create a world where everyone, regardless of gender, has equal opportunities to succeed, contribute, and live a fulfilling life. One of the most powerful and transformative aspects of modern feminism is the concept of intersectionality. This term, introduced by scholar Kimberly Crenshaw in the late 1980s, recognizes that individuals do not experience oppression or privilege in a vacuum. Rather, a person's identity is shaped by multiple interconnected factors, such as race, class, gender, sexuality, and disability. Intersectionality underscores that these various factors intersect and influence how one experiences discrimination or disadvantage. For instance, a Black woman may face discrimination not only because of her gender, but also due to her race, and the challenges she faces may be distinct from those faced by a white woman or a Black man. In the context of feminism, intersectionality ensures that the voices and experiences of all women are heard, particularly those of marginalized groups. It critiques mainstream feminist movements that have historically centered the experiences of middle-class, white women, often overlooking the unique struggles faced by women of color, working-class women, LGBTQ+ women, and disabled women. By acknowledging the complexities of identity and the different layers of oppression, intersectionality helps create a more inclusive feminist movement that fights for the rights and equality of all women, not just a select group. The application of intersectionality in feminism encourages a deeper understanding of the ways in which different forms of inequality intersect and compound each other. For example, a transgender woman of color may face discrimination based on both her gender identity and her racial identity, experiencing unique forms of prejudice that neither a cisgender woman nor a white transgender person might encounter. Similarly, a woman with a disability may face physical and societal barriers that compound with gender-based discrimination, making it more difficult for her to access healthcare, education, or employment opportunities. Intersectional feminism demands that these unique challenges be recognized and addressed in the broader fight for gender equality. Incorporating intersectionality into feminist activism also means recognizing that women are not a monolithic group. The feminist movement cannot be fully effective unless it takes into account the diverse experiences of women from various backgrounds, communities, and social positions. For example, Black feminists, Indigenous feminists, and immigrant feminists have all developed their own unique frameworks of resistance and advocacy that reflect their specific histories and struggles. By embracing these perspectives, the feminist movement can address the specific needs of different groups and ensure that no woman is left behind. This more inclusive and nuanced approach also enhances the feminist movement's ability to address systemic issues of inequality that go beyond gender alone. For instance, issues like poverty, racism, and colonialism are not merely separate concerns, but are intertwined with a struggle for gender equality. Feminism, when viewed through an intersectional lens, acknowledges that achieving equality for women means confronting these broader social issues that disproportionately affect marginalized communities. It broadens the feminist agenda to include social justice, economic equity, and racial justice, ensuring that the fight for gender equality is aligned with the broader fight for a just and equitable society. In essence, intersectionality allows feminism to evolve and adapt to the changing needs of diverse women, and to ensure that the movement remains relevant and inclusive. It emphasizes the importance of solidarity across differences and the need for a more comprehensive approach to activism that recognizes the complex ways in which identities and systems of power intersect. By embracing intersectionality, feminism can more effectively challenge not only gender-based oppression, but also the broader systems of inequality that affect all marginalized groups. Feminism's ultimate goal is to create a world where both men and women are free from restrictive gender norms and are able to live their lives without being limited by societal expectations. This includes dismantling the patriarchal systems that have long defined gender roles, ensuring that all people, regardless of their gender, can live authentically and pursue their dreams without fear of judgment or discrimination. The fight for equality is not just about women's rights, but about breaking down the barriers that limit human potential for everyone. One of the most significant ways feminism seeks to benefit both men and women is by challenging the traditional notions of masculinity and femininity. For centuries, men have been subjected to rigid expectations about how they should behave, often being told they must be strong, unemotional, and dominant. These expectations have created immense pressure on men to conform to a narrow definition of what it means to be masculine. As a result, many men are discouraged from expressing vulnerability, seeking help for mental health issues, or pursuing careers or hobbies that do not align with traditional ideas of masculinity. This leads to a range of emotional, psychological, and social problems, including increased rates of depression, anxiety, and even suicide among men. Feminism advocates for a more inclusive and flexible understanding of gender, one where men can embrace their full humanity without being constrained by outdated stereotypes. This includes encouraging men to express emotions, to be nurturing and caring, and to engage in roles traditionally associated with women, such as caregiving and household responsibilities. By challenging these traditional gender roles, feminism creates space for men to be their authentic selves and to pursue a broader range of interests and relationships without fear of judgment or ridicule. Furthermore, feminism recognizes that men also suffer from gender-based violence, particularly in the form of domestic abuse, sexual assault, and bullying. Although women are disproportionately affected by these forms of violence, men are not immune to them, and their experiences are often underreported or overlooked. Feminism works to address all forms of gender-based violence, creating a society where both men and women are free from the threat of harm. This includes advocating for better support systems for male survivors of violence, as well as promoting healthy, respectful relationships between all individuals regardless of their gender. Feminism also benefits men by challenging the harmful social structures that prioritize male dominance and control. Patriarchy, which has historically placed men in positions of power over women, also harms men by forcing them to conform to rigid roles and by perpetuating systems of inequality. Men too are victims of patriarchy because it limits their emotional expression, stifles their personal growth, and creates unhealthy power dynamics in relationships. Feminism seeks to dismantle these structures and promote equality, not only for women but for men as well. In addition, feminism advocates for a more balanced division of labor at home and in the workplace. Traditional gender roles have often dictated that men should be the primary breadwinners and women should be responsible for domestic tasks. These expectations can place a heavy burden on men to provide financially, while also limiting women's opportunities to participate fully in the workforce. Feminism calls for shared responsibilities both at home and in the workplace, creating a more equitable environment where both men and women can contribute equally to their families and society. Ultimately, feminism is about creating a world where both men and women are free from the limitations of traditional gender roles. By advocating for equality and challenging the patriarchal structures that have historically defined gender, feminism seeks to create a society where everyone can thrive regardless of their gender. It is a movement that benefits everyone, not just women, and it offers a vision of a more just and equitable world for all people. Feminism is not a fight against men. It is a fight for equality, a fight for justice, and a fight for a better world where all people, regardless of gender, are treated with respect, fairness, and dignity. Feminism is about breaking down the barriers that prevent individuals from reaching their full potential. It is about creating a world where everyone has the freedom to be themselves and pursue their dreams. As women and girls, we must continue to be vocal, be active, and be determined. We must not only fight for our rights, but also support and lift up others who are fighting for theirs. Together, we can build a world where feminism is understood for what it truly is, a movement for equality, for justice, and for a brighter future for all. Thank you.